Chapter 151. Ah! I'm going to kill all of you. I'm going to kill all of you. Suyu struggled frantically. Her cultivation was suppressed, and she could not use any of her strength. Her hands scratched the iron chain and blood instantly flowed out. Haha! Looking at Suyu's painful appearance, the steward laughed arrogantly. Scream all you want. When you reach the Chung family, there will be more painful things for you. Haha! At this moment a cold voice sounded. Is that so? Unfortunately, you won't have the chance to bring her back. The moment the voice sounded, a ghostly figure appeared in front of them from afar. Who are you? Hearing the voice, the steward of the Chung family instantly shouted. He took a step back and stared vigilantly at the direction where the figure appeared. His expression was extremely alert. From the other party's words, it seemed that he was here for Suyu. Behind him, a group of guards also stood up and quickly surrounded him. Elder Lu, who was resting with his eyes closed, also opened his eyes. You don't have the right to know who I am. Luo Qingtong's figure slowly appeared beside the iron cage. Looking at Suyu, who was locked in the cage like a dog, Luo Qingtong's expression suddenly turned cold. You only need to know that I'm the one who wants your life. How dare they treat the people around her like this? These people from the Chung family were courting death. Master! Seeing Luo Qingtong appear, Suyu's cold and desperate heart was filled with warmth. She did not expect Luo Qingtong to specially come to save her. When she was taken away from the mansion by the Chung clan, she had already given up all hope. When she knew the truth about the Su family's destruction, she was even more desperate. The Chung family was a first-class family in the Rising Sun country. If the Su family was still around, they could still fight against them. But now, Suyu's eyes were filled with extreme pain. Master, don't worry about me. Go quickly. There are Martial King experts here. Before Suyu could finish his words, the steward of the Chung family had already looked at Luo Qingtong maliciously. Haha. It turned out that the master and the slave had deep feelings for each other. Are you the evil doctor who bought Suyu's jade? They actually chased him all the way here. Just as well, then I'll capture them both. Be our Chung clan's slave. Although the manager didn't think that Luo Qingtong had any ability, he still felt that she was a swindler. It was just a stroke of luck that made him famous in the Blackfield subsidy of the Eastern Fence country. However, if he could make Suyu suffer, he was still very willing to do it. This would definitely make the young master's younger brother very happy. At that time, there would be many benefits for him. Sure enough, after hearing his words, Suyu bit her lip hard and hurriedly said to Luo Qingtong, Mistress, hurry and leave. Don't worry about me. This is a grudge between our Su family and the Chung family. It has nothing to do with you. It was enough for Mistress to give her freedom and a new life. She couldn't implicate Mistress anymore. Want to leave? It's too late. The manager sneered and raised his hand. Capture her. Luo Qingtong narrowed her eyes at the manager. When the guards rushed up, she also raised her hand and made a gesture. Surround them all. Don't let anyone go. She was going to start a massacre today. Swish, swish, swish. Chapter 152. Haha. You dare to show off in front of our Chung clan, with just a few martial marquis? The steward looked at the martial marquis experts who appeared behind Luo Qingtong. He felt an indescribable sense of mockery in his heart and laughed loudly. You are indeed a country bumpkin from the Eastern Fence country. You think you can do anything to us with just a few martial marquis experts? Let me tell you, in our Rising Sun country, martial marquis experts are just elite guards. Your martial marquis slaves were beaten to a pulp by us. If not for the fact that we are in the Blackfields territory, do you think they can escape unscathed? I didn't expect you to bring them to encircle and annihilate us. Ha ha ha. The steward laughed wantonly. Young Master Suyu. He mocked. This is your master? She doesn't seem to be very smart. You are not allowed to insult my master. Suyu's eyes were bloodshot as she struggled desperately against the chains on the iron cage. If not for her, her master would not have been humiliated. Master. Leave quickly. Leave. Luo Qingtong did not look at her. She only looked at the laughing steward. You talk too much nonsense. She lowered her eyes and in the next second, her figure suddenly flew up. You are courting death. Seeing Luo Qingtong rushing towards him, the steward's expression suddenly became serious. The aura on his body suddenly exploded. It was the aura of a martial marquis. Furthermore, it was the strength of a 6th-stage martial marquis. He went up to Luo Qingtong. I originally wanted to make fun of you. Since you are courting death, I will fulfill your wish. He sneered. Leave this evil doctor to me. The rest of you, surround and kill those martial marquis slaves, he said in a deep voice. However, before he could finish speaking, Luo Qingtong, who should have been hundreds of meters away, suddenly appeared in front of him. The death blade in her hand fiercely slashed. In an instant, blood splattered. The steward's throat was instantly cut open. I told you, you talk too much nonsense. In front of Luo Qingtong's eye technique, the manager's every move was under her observation. That steward thought that she had appeared in front of him in an instant. But in reality, Luo Qingtong had already seen through his next move through her eye technique, and had deliberately waited for him at that place. It was equivalent to the steward bumping into Luo Qingtong's death blade. You! The steward clutched his throat that had been cut open, and looked at Luo Qingtong with shock in his eyes. With a thump he fell backwards. An instant kill. From start to finish, Luo Qingtong, and this steward's opponent, had not lasted more than 10 breaths of time. Everyone was stunned. The guards who were rushing towards the battle slaves were instantly dumbfounded. The manager died just like that. Although his strength wasn't considered high among them, it wasn't low either. An expert of the 6th level of martial marquis was actually slashed in the throat by a sword. They were shocked in their hearts. Although everyone could see that Luo Qingtong was able to do this, because it was unexpected. But even if it was unexpected, you still needed to have the corresponding strength. The opponent's aura was clearly not at the great martial general realm. For a great martial general to kill a martial marquis was already considered a genius that appeared once in 100 years. Luo Qingtong had directly jumped 2 realms to kill the enemy, and it was a fatal blow. Chapter 153. Swish. While they were still in a daze, Luo Qingtong's figure flashed once again. Her strength had risen to the 9th stage of the martial general realm, and she was able to display her full strength. It could be said that Luo Qingtong's movements completely represented the peak of strength at this stage. Even if it was a genius expert with the same cultivation level, in front of Luo Qingtong, they would not be able to control their strength as accurately as her. They would not be able to display their strength as much as her. If it was said that a 9th stage martial general genius could display 200% of their strength, then Luo Qingtong's strength had no upper limit. At this stage, where the strongest strength that could be displayed was where Luo Qingtong's strength was at. The reason why there was such an effect was because under Luo Qingtong's eye technique, she was able to grasp the strength of her body like the back of her hand. When a person was able to completely understand their own strength, they would be able to use every bit of strength in their body at will. The difference between the different stages would not be that big. Using a simple example, a high school student could use a high school formula to solve a problem. A middle school student, as long as his brain was developed enough, could also use a middle school formula to solve the problem. Under this kind of situation, was there any difference between the two? It was even possible that the middle school student's final solution would be even more perfect. Who do you think is more powerful? Under the martial king realm, as long as the cultivator did not reach the Xiantian unity stage, they would not be able to resonate with the power of heaven and earth. In front of Luo Qingtong, there would be no difference between them and a sieve. There would be flaws everywhere. As long as she could find those flaws, and when the opponent tried to cover them up in time, she would quickly break them. Then, even if it was a martial lord expert in front of her, they would not be able to withstand a single blow. Luo Qingtong's biggest problem was that her strength was not enough to break through the opponent's defense. And with the strength of a 9th stage martial general, coupled with the cutting ability of the death blade, it was just enough to break through the defense of a martial lord. She could kill these people like chopping melons and vegetables. Only experts at the peak of the martial marquis realm could barely withstand her attack. But they could only barely withstand it. Luo Qingtong stared coldly at the guard commander, who was at the peak of martial lord realm. This person was the strongest among the steward's guards. With the strength of a peak martial marquis, he withstood every single one of her attacks. Every time, the death blade was so close to breaking through the opponent's defense and taking his life. But she was so close that Luo Qingtong could not break through his defense. Haha, there's nothing you can do to me. The guard commander, who was at the peak of the martial lord realm, started to panic. Luo Qingtong's speed was too fast. Almost in an instant, the guards around him all fell down. The steward's words were a complete joke. What about surrounding and killing the other party's martial lord realm slaves? They hadn't even touched the other party's slaves yet. Almost all of them were killed by this evil doctor alone. This guard commander finally understood why Luo Qingtong dared to chase after them with a few martial lord realm slaves. It turned out that the other party was completely confident. Fortunately, the other party seemed to be unable to do anything to him. This caused the guard commander's heart to rise with infinite hope. He laughed loudly and pounced towards Luo Qingtong. As for those martial lord realm slaves, he did not even put them in his eyes. These people were under the control of the slave imprint and could not fully display their strength. He could kill them all with one hand. Chapter 154. Swish! Luo Qingtong's body rose again. The death blade in her hand suddenly changed its form, turning into a milky white life blade state. She slashed down. Under the life blade, the defense of the peak martial lord, which was originally unbreakable, was instantly absorbed by the life blade. At the same time, the defensive power of the peak martial lord also stagnated. Now is the time. Luo Qingtong's eyes flashed. Under the dark red 3D vision, the flaws in the body of the expert at the peak of the martial lord realm were instantly revealed. This time, the flaw was a flaw that could be broken. Boom! The life and death sword in Luo Qingtong's hand instantly changed its form again. Under the absorption state of the life blade, the strength of the peak martial lord was slightly weakened. But Luo Qingtong's strength slightly increased. Under this situation, Luo Qingtong's death blade instantly pierced through the opponent's defense and went straight for his heart. Bang! The tip of the sword penetrated his chest and came out from the back. Luo Qingtong's lips revealed a smile like a bloodthirsty demon flower, and she turned the long sword in her hand. With a boom, the expert at the peak of the martial lord realm did not even have time to react before his heart was minced into pieces. Bang! Luo Qingtong lifted her foot and kicked his body to the side. The few martial lord realm slaves at the side were dumbfounded, especially the peak martial lord slave expert. Originally, when he saw that Luo Qingtong could not break the defense of the peak martial lord guard, he wanted to come up and help. But before he could rush up, Luo Qingtong had already killed the guard commander, who was at the peak of martial lord realm with one strike. Master is actually so powerful. Looking at the terrifying death of the guard commander, the peak martial lord battle slave expert's expression froze for a while. He shrunk his neck and inexplicably felt a burst of cold air. He secretly rejoiced that when the slave mark was removed, he did not have the thought of defecting. Otherwise, his fate would not be much better than the guard commander's. The master of the demonic doctor was too powerful. Obviously, the aura emitted from her body was not at the great martial general realm. It was really too terrifying. If Luo Qingtong was also a martial marquis expert, this peak martial marquis battle slave expert would not be so afraid. But Luo Qingtong, she was not even at the great martial general realm. Where could he find such a terrifying martial general realm expert? Is she still human? Just as the group of martial marquis realm battle slaves were shocked by the terrifying degree of their master. On the other side, Elder Lu, who had watched the entire process of the Chung family being destroyed, was ecstatic. Good sword. He looked greedily at the life and death sword in Luo Qingtong's hand. He did not know Luo Qingtong's hidden card, so he thought that Luo Qingtong's great power was the blessing of the life and death sword. It could allow a martial general realm expert to directly kill an enemy 2 realms higher. What kind of divine weapon was this sword? If he could get it, wouldn't his strength increase greatly? At that time, not to mention the Chung family, He could even do whatever he wanted in the big empires. Wouldn't those super families of the sacred dynasty treat him as a distinguished guest? Chapter 155. Fancy the sword in my hand? Old dog, I'm afraid you won't have the life to take it. Luo Qingtong raised her hand to shake off the blood on her sword. She tilted her sword slightly and pointed it at the ground. She raised her hand and pointed the tip of the sword at Elder Lu. Come and take it if you can. That disdainful attitude and provocation instantly made the veins on Elder Lu's forehead bulge. He was furious. What did you say? You're courting death. As he spoke, he suddenly rushed towards Luo Qingtong. I'm kind enough to give you a way out, but you don't want it. Then go to hell. Elder Lu's voice was filled with rage. His claws were like an eagle's hook as they viciously clawed at Luo Qingtong. At the same time, his body erupted with a power that only a martial king expert could possess. The surrounding spiritual chi of heaven and earth was stirred up by the eruption of his aura. Martial king realm, Khanate unity. The power in one's body could be manipulated at will, and it could also manipulate the surrounding spiritual chi of heaven and earth to create momentum. At the beginning, Elder Lu's claw only contained 50% of his strength, but after the momentum was created, the attack power instantly increased to 100%. This was the unique advantage of a martial king expert. When they reached the martial king realm, they could release the energy from their body and add another layer of attack power on top of their own attacks. Bam! Following Elder Lu's claw, there seemed to be a loud sound in the air. The attack power of this claw was actually able to tear the air apart and create a sonic boom. Master! Suyu had just been released from the iron cage by the other slave experts. When he raised his head and saw this scene, he instantly rushed towards Luo Qingtong without hesitation. The expressions of the other martial marquis experts also changed. They didn't expect that there would be a martial king expert in the team sent by the Chung family. This was an expert who could establish a country. Even in a superior country like the Sunrise Country, he was a figure that was worshipped. He was an absolute expert. Why was there such an expert in the team that came to capture Suyu? Only someone at the level of a clan head or above would be able to order them around. Even if his opponent was only a cultivator who had just reached the martial emperor realm. However, Suyu was the only one who knew that Elder Lu had encountered the team sent by the Chung clan to capture him. It was all his fault. If it wasn't for him, Master wouldn't have met the other party and wouldn't have been targeted. Master, leave quickly. Let us stop him. Hurry back to Blackfield. Suyu rushed in front of Luo Qingtong and raised her hand to block the attack. When the other marquis-level battle slaves heard this, they quickly reacted. They were powerless against a martial king realm expert. They might as well risk their lives to protect their master and escape. With Master's status and identity in Blackfield City, he would definitely be able to avenge them. Master, leave quickly. They also rushed up and instantly formed a human wall in front of Luo Qingtong. Haha, leave. Don't even think about leaving. A ray of light suddenly burst out from Elder Lu's hand and fiercely blasted towards Luo Qingtong and the others. External release of energy. External attack. Looking at the horrifying attack coming towards them, Suyu and the others didn't even think about rushing forward. At this moment, a gentle force suddenly pushed them away. At this moment, a brilliant black light suddenly shot out from behind them. Chapter 156. There was a loud explosion. The black light that flew out from behind them collided with Elder Lu's blast of energy. Under this heavy explosion, the surrounding air instantly exploded. A huge gust of wind exploded. Waves of aftershocks blasted in all directions. Suyu and those martial marquis battle slaves were blown away by the violent force. Their bodies swayed left and right, and they almost fell to the ground. Master! Suyu turned around, wanting to see who saved them. He suddenly turned around and saw Luo Qingtong standing behind them with the death blade. There was no one else except her. That attack just now was sent out by Master? Suyu and the other battle slaves were dumbfounded as they watched the scene unfold. That was an off-body attack that only martial kings could launch. How did Master do it? Their gazes involuntarily focused on the death blade in Luo Qingtong's hand. This sword is so powerful. Indeed, that attack just now was launched by Luo Qingtong with the death blade. When Luo Qingtong obtained the life and death sword, she was already able to use the death blade to launch a sword attack that only martial kings could launch. But at that time, the power in her body was not enough. She could barely launch one attack. But now it was not like this. Old dog, you want to steal my sword with your little strength? You're boasting too shamelessly. Seeing that Su Yu and the others were almost killed, Luo Qingtong's eyes were cold, and she directly waved her hand. Swish! The biting cold black light penetrated the death blade like the light of a death scythe, and heavily chopped at Elder Lu in front of her. The latter was now looking at the life and death duality, sword like a hungry wolf. Ha ha ha. Good good good. Good sword. A peerless sword. Elder Lu's heart was filled with indescribable ecstasy. The surprise that this sword gave him was simply too great. Previously, it was enough to make Luo Qingtong kill a martial marquis expert. Who would have thought that it would be able to make a martial general realm expert directly release a sword chi attack to fight against him? A martial king realm expert. Good. This is great. Such a peerless treasure. She was destined to be his. Haha. Originally, I wanted to spare your lives to torture you. Now I've changed my mind. All of you must die. Someone who had seen this sword. All of you must die. Such a peerless sword. I must hide it well. I can't let anyone know. I was right to let the Chung family's people be killed by this evil doctor. Haha. He laughed loudly. With a boom, the aura around him exploded. A fiery red longsword instantly appeared in his hand. I'll let you see what the true strength of a martial king is. That's not something that can be compared to the sword chi that you can release with a sword. As he spoke, he raised his hand and waved it. A sword light several meters long shot out from the long sword and rushed towards Luo Qingtong. Master! Be careful! Su Yu and the others felt their hearts tighten as they watched. Although their master could release a sword light that only a martial king could have, she was not a real martial king. Would Mistress be able to block this move? Just as their hearts tightened, the two sword lights collided in midair. Boom! Luo Qingtong's sword light was suddenly broken. Seeing that Elder Lu's attack was about to penetrate, Su Yu and the others could not help but scream. Chapter 157. With a bang, Elder Lu's attack also shattered in midair. How is this possible? Elder Lu, who was about to laugh maniacally, was instantly stunned. How is this possible? His full-strength attack was actually unable to deal with the attack of the evil doctor, who was not even at the great martial general stage. How is this possible? No matter how powerful that black sword was, the opponent had to have the strength to unleash it. A great martial general stage was simply unable to unleash the full power of that long sword. Elder Lu was confident that he could behead the opponent under his sword light. He did not expect that he would be able to break through the opponent's attack, but his own sword light attack was also neutralized. Elder Lu's heart was filled with disbelief. However, only Luo Qingtong knew how she did it. No matter how strong the attack was, it had a weak point. The opponent's attack was strong, but she had already seen through the weakest point of his sword light through her eye technique. When she waved her sword, she had already rushed towards that trajectory and destroyed that weak point, neutralizing the opponent's attack. No, I don't believe it. Elder Lu's face was filled with rage. He raised his sword and rushed forward. The fiery red sword light swallowed and spat out. He did not believe it. His opponent was able to completely block his attack with a single sword. If one attack was not enough, then two. He did not believe that the opponent could block all of them. Rumble! The two figures quickly clashed with each other. Su Yu and the rest, who had been thrown to the ground by the aftermath of the terrifying attacks, were extremely shocked. If it was said that Luo Qingtong blocked Elder Lu's attack the first time, they felt that it was a fluke. But this time, they were completely shocked. Just as Elder Lu thought. No matter how powerful the sword in Master's hand was, without the corresponding strength, it was impossible to fight against a martial king expert. So when Master killed those martial marquis experts, she did not use her full strength. While Su Yu and the rest were shocked, Elder Lu became more and more alarmed as he fought. Terrifying. Too terrifying. What kind of monster was the opponent? Elder Lu could clearly feel that the sword light emitted by Luo Qingtong through the death blade was not as powerful as his own attack. However, his opponent was able to negate his attacks every single time. He wanted to increase his attack power to almost the same level as hers. Every single one of his attacks seemed to have collided with her sword light. Then, when his opponent's sword light shattered, the power of his attack was also negated. Once or twice could be considered a coincidence. It was the same every time. Could it be that the other party was able to see through his attack? Thinking of this, that Elder Lu was greatly alarmed. At this time, he no longer despised Luo Qingtong. Instead, a trace of coldness emerged from the bottom of his heart. A martial general cultivator, even if he had a divine sword in his hand, would not be able to fight with him like this. And not only did the other party do it, in fact, it was even showing signs of suppressing him. Elder Lu had a feeling that as time passed, the rhythm of his attacks and the circulation of his qi seemed to be becoming more and more clear to his opponent. If this continued, perhaps he would be killed here instead. No way. This can't go on. As Elder Lu thought about it, he gritted his teeth. Boom. He flipped his wrist. In an instant, the long sword in his hand suddenly emitted a blazing and fierce light. Following his wave, it was like a huge fireball, rushing towards Luo Qingtong. Chapter 158. King-Level Cultivation Technique, Raging Flame Slash. This was Elder Lu's most powerful killing move after advancing to the martial king realm. Just like that, he blasted it towards Luo Qingtong. Die! Haha! The air was filled with a biting cold and suffocating smell, faintly suffused with a scorching hot aura. Luo Qingtong's gaze turned cold when she saw the attack rushing towards her. The strength of this attack had already exceeded the extent of her ability to break it. Luo Qingtong's gaze turned cold as she raised her hand to change the death blade into a life blade. At this moment, the power in her body suddenly stagnated, coincidentally exhausted. Luo Qingtong's expression turned cold as the blood-red light in her eyes instantly flashed. Almost instantly, she found the most suitable route to dodge. However, before she could make a move, a figure suddenly rushed over from the side and blocked in front of her. Master! Suyu had been watching the battle between Luo Qingtong and Elder Lu without blinking. Although Luo Qingtong's display of strength was extremely valiant, Elder Lu was still a martial king after all. No one would know the outcome until the very last moment. Therefore, when something happened to Luo Qingtong, no one else had noticed it, but Suyu had immediately noticed it and pounced over without a second thought. I can't let anything happen to Master. Even if I have to sacrifice my life, I can't let anything happen to Master. Holding on to this belief, Suyu rushed over before Luo Qingtong could move and pounced on her. Master! She raised her hand to push Luo Qingtong away. Luo Qingtong's pupil shrank. She never thought that Suyu would pounce over without a care in the world. Anyone could see that Elder Lu's move was a killing move. Suyu had pounced over to block the arrow for her and send herself to death. This fool! Bang! In the instant that Luo Qingtong's body moved, she pulled Suyu's hand and dodged to the side. However, her eye technique only calculated her safest hiding position. It didn't include Suyu. Although her pull had allowed Suyu to avoid the sure-kill attack of the Raging Flame Slash, the aftershock of the latter's berserk strength and scorching aura had instantly inflicted heavy injuries on Suyu. Luo Qingtong was instantly enraged when she saw the back of the girl, who had thrown herself at her, charred and badly mutilated. Old dog, you're courting death. The bloody light in Luo Qingtong's eyes was like a storm. The blood-red glow within her eyes was strong, and when paired with her empty and black eyes, she looked like a goddess of darkness that had come from the depths of hell. When she saw Elder Lu raising his hand to launch another attack at her, the blood-red light in her eyes turned piercingly cold. She immediately summoned Little Pig. He still didn't know what was going on with the latter. As soon as it raised its head, it saw a piercingly cold and scorching light rushing towards it. Instantly, it cried out in fright and raised its 4 little hooves, wanting to run away. Luo Qingtong raised a hand and pressed it down. Stop him. At least 10 breaths of time. Otherwise, don't even think about leaving the demon subduing pagoda for the rest of your life. Her voice was ice cold. Before Little Pig could react, it was lifted and thrown out. Aha! You can't do this. Why don't you call Lil White out to block me? You're treating me differently. Little Pig cried out as it flew towards the raging flame slash. At the same time, Luo Qingtong abruptly grasped the thousand-year soul-guiding wood's core in her hand. It contained the Yi Qianxian energy that she had previously poured into it. Chapter 159. Little Pig flew toward Elder Lu's attack with a miserable expression. Just when everyone thought it would be split in half by the attack, Little Pig finally shut up after failing to get Luo Qingtong to call it back after shouting for a long time. Forget it. That woman won't fall for it. Damn it. Little Pig stomped on the ground with its 4 little hooves and instantly reversed its position in the air. Then, under everyone's widened eyes, Little Pig abruptly opened its mouth. Boom! A ray of light that was as sharp as a sword shot out from its mouth. With a bang, it collided with the attack that Elder Lu had unleashed. Rumble! The 2 lights collided in an instant. The violent shockwaves from the collision caused Little Pig's aura to weaken significantly. This attack had consumed a lot of its energy. In the next second, Little Pig turned into a pink lightning bolt and charged toward Elder Lu. Luo Qingtong said that she wanted Little Pig to block Elder Lu's attack for at least 10 breaths of time. What the hell is this? Elder Lu was stunned for a moment when he saw his attack was blocked by a pink mini pig that appeared out of nowhere. Then he launched another attack. This time, before the attack could reach him, Little Pig had already dodged and fled. Little Pig's 4 little hooves lightly stomped in the air and turned into pink lightning bolts. It circled around Elder Lu, not giving him a chance to disturb Luo Qingtong's recovery. Based on its understanding of that woman, once she regained her strength, it would be Elder Lu's death in the next second. Damn it! You bastard! I'll trap you until you die. It's all your fault. You made this Grandpa Pig lose a lot of energy. Do you think it's easy for me to recover a little bit of my strength? If it weren't for the fact that I'm sealed, I would have killed you with a single breath. Damn it! Little Pig grumbled in his heart as he led Elder Lu in circles. Rumble! Elder Lu launched one attack after another, but none of them could even touch Little Pig's skin. Occasionally, some of the shockwaves hit Little Pig, but it was as if they couldn't hurt Little Pig at all. From beginning to end, Little Pig didn't slow down at all. What the hell is this thing? Just as Elder Lu was shocked, there was a loud boom. On the other side, Luo Qingtong finally absorbed enough power. She leaped into the air, and the blood-red light in her eyes flickered. Behind the evil Rakshasa mask, her red lips moved slightly. Get out of the way! Little Pig's cold voice. Without any hesitation, he kicked the ground and ran as far as the sky. Damn it! I'm so tired. Why did this woman provoke so many people? She actually provoked a martial king. How is she going to deal with her opponent? At the martial king realm, the chi within the body was perfectly integrated, and there was almost no flaw. Even if there was a martial king, Luo Qingtong, she's a martial general. Luo Qingtong, a peak martial marquis, combined with the life and death yin-yang sword's life and death edge effect, could barely kill him. What should she do? Little Pig was curious, so he didn't forget to turn his head around to take a look. With one look, it instantly widened its beady eyes. How did this woman do it? Little Pig looked at Luo Qingtong in shock. The death blade in the girl's hand was held horizontally. Streaks of fiery red light jumped on it. The scorching and intense light set off the pure black blade. It was like the fire of the underworld from the depths of purgatory, absolutely gorgeous and terrifying. Chapter 160. Isn't this the attack that Elder Lu just used? What's it called again? Raging Flame Slash. While Little Pig was still in shock, Luo Qingtong's cold voice rang out. Swoosh! A fiery red light, with terrifying speed and murderous intent, suddenly broke free from the death blade sword light in Luo Qingtong's hand. That light carried a scorching heat, sweeping up layers of heat waves in the air as it blasted towards Elder Lu, who was already dumbfounded from shock. The power and intensity of this attack were many times stronger than the raging flame slash that Elder Lu used before. If the raging flame slash that Elder Lu used before was only 50 points of proficiency, then Luo Qingtong's proficiency was 100 points. Perfect replication. This was another ability of Luo Qingtong's pupil technique. As long as she had enough strength, she could perfectly replicate any cultivation method or martial skill that she had seen before. This raging flame slash, no matter if it was the technique or the power, had reached the most perfect level of this king-tier cultivation method. It was as if it was directly copied from a cultivation method book. His every move was perfect to the extreme. Little Pig was so shocked that his eyeballs almost fell out of their sockets. Oh my God! What kind of abnormal master did I choose? This woman. Can this woman be any more abnormal? Under Little Pig's shocked gaze, the raging flame slash rapidly slashed toward Elder Lu. The latter quickly regained his senses as the scorching heat approached him. Impossible. This is impossible. How are you able to use my secret technique? This must be a fake. Smokescreen. Yes, it's a smokescreen. Elder Lu's heart was filled with panic and fear. He shouted loudly and hurriedly waved his hand, sending out a raging flame slash at the same time. However, compared to Luo Qingtong's perfect raging flame slash, Elder Lu's raging flame slash was like a child's play. Boom! Luo Qingtong's raging flame slash quickly broke through Elder Lu's raging flame slash and directly cut him in half. Bang bang! With two muffled sounds, the two halves of Elder Lu's body fell heavily onto the ground. His eyes were wide open. He couldn't believe that he had died under his own unique skill. Moreover, he had died so miserably. Boom! After Luo Qingtong's attack split Elder Lu into two halves, it didn't slow down at all. Instead, it created a huge and bottomless crack in the ground. The might of a king-level cultivation technique was truly terrifying. Bam! Little Pig fell to the ground. Looking at the Luo Qingtong's attack, his eyes widened. Oh my God! This woman was too scary, wasn't she? With just a glance, he had learned someone else's unique skill. Moreover, his attack was many times more powerful than Elder Lu's. Oh my God! Was he still human? As for the few martial Marquis realm slaves, who had been completely abandoned to the side, and hadn't even been able to get anything, they were constantly gasping for breath. Master is really too strong. Looking at how Elder Lu died without a complete corpse, the strong enslaved figures' hearts were pounding like drums. Their reverence for Luo Qingtong was like that of a deity. A martial general was able to kill a martial king. In this world, there was probably no one who could stand shoulder to shoulder with their master. Chapter 161. Their hearts were filled with indescribable excitement. Master! Congratulations on your great victory, Master! After Luo Qingtong landed, they stepped forward and knelt on the ground. They raised their heads, their faces full of awe and reverence. Get up! Luo Qingtong's eyes were indifferent. She waved her hand and put away the life and death sword. The attack just now drained all the energy in her body, so she was a little unsteady. The power of a king-level cultivation technique was indeed powerful. If not for the energy that Yi Qianxian had poured into her body, she would not have been able to use it. Fortunately, she did not waste this energy and sealed it in the heart of the 1,000-year soul-guiding tree. Otherwise, she would not have been able to kill Elder Lu. If she let him escape, he would be a big problem. Clean up this place and take everything from them. Take Su Yu and let's go, Luo Qingtong said in a low voice. She looked at the huge spirit boat not far away, and the corners of her lips curled up. It seemed that the harvest this time was not bad. These people from the Chung family came to capture Su Yu, and they even brought a spirit boat? It looked similar to the spirit boat she saw outside the Blackfield City. Obviously, it was not an ordinary magic weapon. The spirit boat from before was an earth-level magic weapon. Could it be that this spirit boat was of the same level? If that was the case, the Chung family had really spent a lot of money. She did not know where they got it from. But they actually used such a treasure to capture Su Yu. This time, she had benefited from it. Yes, a group of martial Marquis experts got up and quickly cleaned up the battlefield. Luo Qingtong walked to Su Yu's side and helped her up. When she pushed Su Yu away, she had already sealed her heart meridian and all the vital acupoints. The girl was seriously injured. Most of her back was almost burned through, and the flesh on it was badly mutilated and charred. Luo Qingtong looked at her and frowned. She picked him up and was careful not to touch Su Yu's wound. At this time, the battle slaves in charge of cleaning up the battlefield came to report. "Master, it's all done. These corpses. Don't move, just leave it there." Luo Qingtong's voice was biting cold. She didn't mind letting the Chung family see what would happen to their men. Luo Qingtong didn't intend to hide it. Someone had come knocking on her door. If she didn't do something to intimidate them, they would think that her residence was a tea house where people came and went as they pleased. So what if he killed a member of the Chung clan? She wanted to tell everyone that her people were not to be messed with. Whoever dared to move would die. Go. The group boarded the flying boat. Luo Qingtong only glanced at the spiritual pivot that was controlling the airship, and then she released her spiritual power to erase the soul sense aura that was imprinted on it. With her eye technique and ability, it was a piece of cake for her. In just a few breaths, the huge spirit ship rushed up and flew toward the Blackfield city. Bang! Just as Luo Qingtong was controlling the huge and beautiful airship to soar into the sky, the Chung family of Sunrise Country, a luxuriously dressed young man with a golden crown on his hair, suddenly changed his expression. He stood up abruptly and didn't even realize that he knocked over the chair behind him. "Spirit ship, my soul sense imprint has been erased." His voice was filled with shock and anger. Before the members of the Chung family in the hall could react, a figure suddenly rushed in from outside. Chapter 162. What? Whose soul lamp was extinguished? The members of Chung clan, who didn't know what was going on, all stood up at once. Especially the Chung family head, who had been stroking his beard and laughing heartily just now. His face darkened instantly. It's Elder Lu, Steward Zhang and Commander Chen's." The servant replied with trepidation. "Bastard!" The Chung family head was furious. He didn't care about Elder Lu's death, but Steward Zhang and Commander Chen, didn't they take Yun'er's flying boat to capture Su Yu? Now that they were dead, coupled with his son's words just now, a bad premonition surged in the Chung family head's heart. Could it be that his son's spirit boat was stolen? At this moment, another figure scrambled out of the room. "Family head young master, there's a letter from the Black Region sub-city." As the butler spoke, he kept wiping his sweat as he raised his hand and handed over a letter. It was a black envelope with a black seal. The Chung family head and Chung Lingyun's expressions changed when they saw it. The other Chung family members also quickly quietened down. A letter from the Blackfield City. Why would the Blackfield City suddenly send them a letter? And this letter? Everyone looked at the black letter. It was clearly a letter used by the Blackfield City to issue warnings and punishments to outsiders. When did the Chung family offend the Blackfield City? Everyone thought in their hearts, feeling extremely uneasy. Only the Chung family head and Chung Lingyun knew what was going on. When they thought of how Steward Zhang and the others brought people to the Blackfield City to capture Su Yu, their expressions instantly darkened. Could it be that they offended someone over there? Caused the Blackfield City to issue a warning to them? The Chung family head was bewildered. When he opened the letter and saw the contents, his expression instantly turned extremely ugly. It was naturally an ultimatum from the Bloody Arena, telling them that Su Yu was evil Dr. Ghost Eye's subordinate, and that they were not to provoke him in the future. Otherwise, don't blame them for being impolite. The letter was stamped with the Bloody Arena's headquarters seal. The head of the Chung family slammed his palm heavily on the table in front of him. Damn it! At this point the matter was very clear. The one who killed Steward Zhang and the others must be evil Dr. Ghost Eye. He didn't expect Su Yu to find such a backer, to be able to make the Bloody Arena's people protect him. But they didn't need to find trouble with Su Yu. What about his son's spirit boat? That was a special reward he had received from the Sacred Academy. That spirit boat's grade. Even the ordinary teachers of the Sacred Academy didn't have such a boat. Was he going to give it justs? Chung Lingyun's SS initially, he wanted to let Steward Zhang and the others use the spirit vessel to cheer his younger brother up when he returned to visit his family. Who would have thought that something like this would happen midway? Now that his spirit boat had been snatched away, and the other party was protected by people from the Black Region subcity, was he going to lose his spirit boat for nothing? Even in the Sacred Institute, that was an extremely precious flying boat. Chung Lingyun's heart bled just thinking about it. No, he couldn't let it go just like that. Father, I must get the spirit boat back. But the other party has people from the Blackfield City protecting him. The Chung family head frowned. Chapter 163. The Supreme Assassin Pavilion was the only mysterious influence within the True Spill continent that could compare with the Blackfield. Their reputation within the True Spill continent wasn't as great as the Blackfield, but they were still feared by many. This was because the Supreme Assassin Pavilion only did one business, and that was to kill. The Blackfield also had their own assassination business, but because the Blackfield's influence was so vast, many people preferred to place their orders at the Supreme Assassin Pavilion. This was because the Supreme Assassin Pavilion's rules stated that no matter who you wanted to assassinate, as long as you could pay the price, they would dare to kill you. The Saint Emperors of the Holy Dynasty and the Blackfield were no exception. Of course, their price wasn't something that the average person or influence could afford. But daring to say such words and putting the names of so many powerhouses on the list also proved the strength behind the Supreme Assassin Pavilion. It was said that behind the Supreme Assassin Pavilion was a group of powerhouses that stood at the pinnacle of the True Spill continent. They formed an alliance and formed the Supreme Assassin Pavilion out of boredom, and then continued to do so. Everything within the Supreme Assassin Pavilion was kept secret, and the assassins responsible for carrying out missions were only given code names. As long as the Supreme Assassin Pavilion assassinated them, even if they didn't succeed, they wouldn't be refunded. Hearing Chung Lingyun mention the Supreme Assassin Pavilion, the Chung family had immediately reacted. That's right. If the Supreme Assassin Pavilion takes action, the Blackfield can't blame us. He excitedly said. Let's go, we'll go to the Supreme Assassin Pavilion now. Using a bit of money to exchange for a spirit boat airship was absolutely the most cost-effective transaction. Not to mention that the Eastern Fence Nation's Blackfield Branch City's evil doctor, even if he was valued by the bloody arena, how strong could he be? The Chung family had almost immediately agreed to this proposal. As the Chung family father and son headed towards the Supreme Assassin Pavilion, several figures appeared where Luo Qingtong and the others had left. Over here. A group of people rushed towards the place where the Chung family's corpses lay. These people all wore the uniform of the Blackfield. Impressively, they were from the Eastern Fence Nation's Blackfield Branch City. When Luo Qingtong went out, they followed her. But they were thrown off halfway and lost their way. Only now did they arrive here. All of them were killed in one hit. One of them squatted down to investigate. Especially this elder Lu, he seems to have died at the hands of his own unique skill. Blackfield's ability to gather information was top-notch. These people were following Luo Qingtong, so they knew exactly who she was looking for. With just a casual glance, they were able to discern Elder Lu's identity. He was no stranger to the wounds on his body. It is indeed the power of Raging Flame Cut. Moreover, his technique was clean and efficient, and his power was incomparably tyrannical. It's even stronger than Elder Lu's. Go back and report to the city lord. After saying that, the group of people left. As for the corpses of the Chung clan members, they were still there. Even if Luo Qingtong didn't kill these people who dared to challenge the dignity of Blackfield City, once they found out, they would still kill them. Putting their corpses here would serve as a warning to the others. While these people were retreating, Luo Qingtong had already brought Suyu and the others back to Blackfield City. She parked the spirit boat in a hidden mountain range outside Blackfield City and returned to Blackfield City with Suyu and the others. As soon as they entered the residence, Luo Qingtong issued an order. Seal the residence. Without my order, no one is allowed to disturb us. Chapter 164. Mistress, am I going to die soon? In the room, Suyu is lying on her stomach on the bed. Her clothes are all gone, and her voice is weak. She was seriously injured. On the way back, She had already lost consciousness several times. Luo Qingtong underestimated the power of that raging flame chop. In the end, it was the full-strength attack of a martial king. So you didn't completely avoid it. That attack not only burned her back, it also penetrated into her body, almost merging all the meridians on her back. If it was someone else, they would have died long ago. Luo Qingtong sealed all the major meridians in Su Yu's body, allowing her to hold on until now. But even so, this is already the limit. It won't happen. With me here you won't die. A bloody light flashes in Luo Qingtong's eyes. She stares at Su Yu's back without blinking. Her hands are flying, almost forming an afterimage in the air. She has already removed her disguise, revealing her beautiful face. Her body is like jade, and her eyes are like blood. She looks like a bewitching monster that bewitches people's hearts, captivating and moving people's souls. Yes, I believe in Mistress. Su Yu slightly closes her eyes. She believes in Mistress. If Mistress says she can live, then she will definitely live. Endure, Su Yu, I'm going to do it. At that time, even if you seal your 5 senses, you will still feel pain. This pain will make you wish you were dead. But you must endure it. You can't faint. Otherwise, all our previous efforts will be wasted. After spending less than an hour to seal all the blood vessels in Su Yu's body, Luo Qingtong looks at the girl lying on the bed and says word by word, "Endure it, and you will be reborn. You will have a boundless sea and sky. You can do anything you want." "I can't endure it. Only death awaits you." "Mistress, do it." Su Yu closes her eyes tightly. She must endure it. Good. A bloody light flashes in Luo Qingtong's eyes. She directly begins to peel off the dead skin and flesh on her back. She peels off the meridians that have already melted together. She connects the meridians that have already melted to the point that their shape can't be seen. She restored them to their original appearance, and even more open and unobstructed than before. This disaster may not be a disaster for Su Yu. Her meridians had been fused into one. If it was anyone else, even if they managed to save her, they would be a cripple. From now on, she can't use her strength, even if she has the strength of a martial lord. But Luo Qingtong is different. Su Yu's meridians were all destroyed, so she simply reshaped her meridians with the wider meridians. The smoothness of a martial artist's meridians was directly related to their strength. Luo Qingtong takes this opportunity to completely reconstruct Su Yu's meridians. Those meridians that Su Yu didn't open when she was cultivating, under Luo Qingtong's inner vision, are all opened by the strength of her strength. Open up the meridians and obtain a new life. As long as Su Yu survives this, her future is limitless. As soon as Luo Qingtong makes a move, Su Yu can't help but scream. Her beautiful and resolute face was filled with pain at this moment. However, even if she bites her lips and breaks her fingernails, she still resolutely maintains her consciousness. She bears the pain that can be said to be tearing her soul. She will definitely survive. She still has the blood feud of the Su family to bear. She can't die. Chapter 165. You're saying that everyone in the Chung family was killed in one blow. An elder Lu, a martial king, was killed by his own unique skill? And it was a one-hit kill? His eyes were filled with surprise. Yes, we've investigated back and forth, and it's indeed so. And the person who did it is extremely powerful, and has extraordinary abilities. The power of the move that killed Elder Lu was perfect. It can't be used unless it's cultivated to the full mastery realm. I estimate that the person who did it is at least a martial emperor. A martial emperor's strength has been cultivated to the point of returning to one's original state. It's extremely easy to imitate the skill below, and its perfect power when it's used. Other than that, there's no other reason to explain Elder Lu's death. After all, although the raging flame slash was not rare, the probability of the other party knowing it and being able to use it perfectly was too small. The biggest possibility is that there's a martial emperor behind the evil doctor. Or maybe he's the martial emperor himself. However, these people in Blackfield City didn't know that this was an illusion created by Luo Qingtong with the help of her eye technique and Yi Qianxian's power. It had nothing to do with a martial emperor. A martial emperor? The Blackfield city governor listened without saying a word. If that's the case, he'll have to rope in the evil doctor. After all, such a strong person can already build an empire. The Blackfield city governor of Eastern Fence Country is just a city in a low-level country. His strength is only at the martial emperor realm. If he could befriend a martial emperor-level powerhouse, it would be 100 advantages and no disadvantages. But when he thought of the tangled relationship between his lord and the evil doctor, he didn't know whether it was a good or bad relationship. The Blackfield city governor felt a headache coming on. Forget it, let's wait and see. No matter how powerful the evil doctor is, he can't be compared to my wise and powerful lord. If he accidentally stands on the wrong side and cozies up to the wrong person, it'll be no joke. Sigh. My lord, there are so many men and women who admire you in this world. Why do you like the evil doctor? The city lord of the Blackfield subcity thought, and the corner of his eyes twitched. He had been in charge of the Blackfield city of Eastern Fence Nation for so many years, but this was the first time he realized that his lord's preferences were so different. That's enough. He waved his hand. This matter ends here. Send this information to the lord after you've sorted it out. Keep an eye on the evil doctor. Don't let him be dissatisfied with our Blackfield branch city. Also keep a close eye on the Chung family. Don't let them have the chance to cause trouble for the evil doctor. There can't be a next time when the evil doctor's manor was attacked in the Blackfield city. Yes. Everyone agreed in unison. At this moment, a servant hurriedly walked in from outside. City Lord, this is the application from the Bloody Arena. Apply. What application? The Blackfield city lord raised his hand and took the letter in his hand. After reading it, the corner of his mouth suddenly twitched. It was the Bloody Arena who felt the Chung family's attack on Luo Qingtong's manor and hurriedly applied for a silver order for her. This way, they could openly send people to protect Luo Qingtong's manor. However, the Blackfield city lord still couldn't figure out the lord's attitude toward the evil doctor. How dare he casually give her a Blackfield order? What if the lord was unhappy? The Blackfield city lord thought about it and finally decided to report it to the lord and let him decide. Chapter 166. Elder Yu, quick! Master is in trouble. Blackfield Deep Venerable Palace. Bei Qing and Feng Yu hurriedly brought Yi Qianxian back. Yi Qianxian was still in a coma. The two placed him in the back of the palace. Feng Yu stayed behind to guard him, while Bei Qing rushed directly to the medicine hall. She was looking for Elder Yu. He was brought back by Yi Qianxian when he went out. He was in charge of the medicine hall. No one knew how high Elder Yu's alchemist level was. They only knew that he was the only one who could see some clues about Master's injury that made all the alchemists in the True Spill continent helpless. The panacea that Yi Qianxian usually soaked in when his injury flared up was also made by him. In the entire True Spill continent, only he could slightly alleviate Yi Qianxian's injury. Elder Yu, come with me. Bei Qing hurried all the way to the medicine hall. She didn't care what Elder Yu was doing. She pulled him along and ran. Yi Qianxian's injury flared up fiercely this time. Only the heavens knew how they felt when they rushed in and saw the pool in the bath hall dyed red. Their hearts were about to stop from fright. With Master's status, nothing could happen to him. Hey, wait! You stinking brat! Wait a minute! I haven't taken the medicine yet. Elder Yu was in the medicine hall sorting out the herbs that he needed to remix Yi Qianxian's medicine. Suddenly being pulled by Bei Qing, the herbs in his hands almost fell to the ground. How could Bei Qing wait? He waved his hand, and with a schwa sound, everything in Elder Yu's room was swept clean. Sumeru space. The most rare and precious Sumeru space in the True Spill continent. It was a storage magic treasure. Seeing Bei Qing take everything in the room with a wave of his hand, who knew how big the space in his Sumeru space ring was? It had to be known that in the True Spill continent, a storage magic treasure with a square meter of space was enough to make people go crazy. But Bei Qing's storage space was probably no less than a few hundred square meters. Okay, I've taken everything. Elder Yu, let's go. I'll get you whatever you want later. As he spoke, he pulled Elder Yu and ran without any explanation. The old man glared at him with his old eyes and only remembered to curse after he was dragged along for some distance. F***CKU, you little bastard. You should have at least left a bed for me. And my chamber pot. Why are you keeping it too? Mingzun Palace, sleeping quarters. On the spacious and luxurious bed, a godlike man lay on a milky white jade pillow with his eyes closed. That indescribably handsome face, even though he was unconscious, could not hide the elegance, majesty, and magnificence. Elder Yu, how is it? Is master all right? Beside the bed, Beiqing paced back and forth with an anxious look on his face. Enough. You're so annoying. I've only just started taking your pulse. You're asking me if I'm okay. Do you think I'm a deity? Get out of my way. Elder Yu was annoyed by his questions. He lifted his leg and kicked him to the side. She hadn't even settled the score with him for taking away all the things in her room. Now he was being stupid again. Elder Yu was fuming with anger. He wanted to scold him again, but suddenly his face turned cold. This pulse. Ignoring Beiqing, this stupid dog, he hurriedly checked Yi Qianxian's pulse. Chapter 167. Nope. Beiqing and Feng Yu were both stunned when they heard Elder Yu's question. They found that their master's injuries flared up, and he fainted in the bath hall. So they immediately brought him back. How could there be other pharmacists who helped their master? Besides, other pharmacists couldn't treat their master's injuries. Both of them shook their heads, but Elder Yu stroked his beard and felt strange. That's strange. Your master's pulse is stable, and his main meridians are slowly recovering. The condition of his injuries flared up is much better than before. Someone must have treated his injuries, and that person's alchemy skills are above mine. As he spoke, he looked at Beiqing and Feng Yu. His beard puffed up and his eyes widened. There's such a pharmacist, and you deliberately hid it from me. Why are you afraid that I'll be jealous and harm him? Since you don't believe me, I'll leave. As he spoke, he was about to leave, but was pulled back by Feng Yu. Wait, Elder Yu, can you make it clear? You're saying that my master is fine now, and someone has already treated his injuries? He asked. Yes. I don't know why, but she only treated half of it. If not, your master would have woken up long ago. He's unconscious now, not because of something, but because his main meridians are self-healing. Elder Yu said, that's why I said that person is better than me. At least I can't make your master's main meridians self-heal. And he pointed at Yi Qianxian and said, your master's main meridians have strengthened again. If this goes on, his life won't be in danger in the future. Enough. I've said what I need to say. Since you're so guarded against me, this old man isn't someone who doesn't know what's good for him. I'll leave now. Elder Yu was also stubborn. His medical skills were profound, and his alchemy skills were incomparable. Many people wanted to ask him for help but couldn't. If Yi Qianxian's injuries hadn't piqued his curiosity, he wouldn't have appeared here. In the end, they were so guarded against him. Even if they found a cure, they wouldn't tell him. Fine. In that case, he'll leave by himself. I won't send you off. Wait. Elder Yu. Seeing that he was about to leave, Feng Yu hurriedly pulled him back. We swear that before you. We really didn't invite any alchemist to treat master's injuries. I swear by the world and my soul. As he spoke, he raised his hand and pointed his sword at the sky. There was no movement in the sky, which meant that Feng Yu was not lying. Elder Yu put down his foot again. Really? I really didn't. Feng Yu's face was resolute. At this moment, Beiqing also came to her senses and said hurriedly, Elder Yu, I really didn't. Otherwise, why would I be so anxious? That was true. Beiqing was so stubborn that she didn't look like a liar. Elder Yu thought for a moment and sat back down. Then before your master fainted, did anyone go in? In addition, did something similar happen to him before? Is it because the injury suddenly healed? Elder Yu wondered if Yi Qianren had done something by accident that inexplicably improved his condition. When he said that, Beiqing and Feng Yu looked at each other and thought of the same thing at the same time. Yes, Elder Yu, something similar happened to Master before. It happened on Nine Magi Mountain. Master said that it was a young girl who cured him. Yes. Chapter 168. Nine Magi Mountain? Is that the Nine Magi Mountain that caused a huge uproar in Dongli country? Yuelao asked in surprise. Your master went there? Yes. Feng Yu nodded. Master received news that there was a relic there that might have a way to treat his injuries. So he went there alone. After that, Master's injuries acted up. By the time we arrived, Master was already fine. According to Master, it was a blind girl who saved him. Feng Yu explained the situation at that time, including the changes in Yi Qianxian's meridians. Because we weren't sure what the changes were, and because we were looking for that girl, we didn't have time to tell you about this. Feng Yu said. I see. Yuelao nodded. So that's it. No wonder Yi Qianxian's meridians looked like they were about to explode, because of the medicinal power. He knew that this kid's meridians were already so weak, that they needed to be nurtured at all times to maintain normal conditions. How dare he do such a suicidal thing? So it was because he wanted to confirm the changes in his injuries. But the person who saved him was a young girl? And a blind one at that. Yuelao was in disbelief. If he said that his alchemy skills were second, no one in the world would dare to say that they were the best. But even so, he had been by Yi Qianxian's side for so many years, but he had not been able to treat his injuries at all. At most, he could only delay the pain when his injuries acted up. He could only help him endure this period of time. But now a young girl, and a blind girl at that, had done something that even he could not do? Is your master sure that it was a young girl? I mean, is he sure that she was young? What was her cultivation level? When he asked this question, Feng Yu and Bei Qing's expressions became strange. She was indeed a young girl. They nodded. And her strength, according to Master, she was a martial master. But Master was unable to keep her. As they spoke, they hid the fact that when they found Yi Qianxian, the latter had a bite mark on his lips. Master was seduced by the other party's beauty, so he played with her. As he played, he let her go. That must not be said. It was too damaging to Master's wise and mighty image. Pfft! Before they could finish, Yuelao could not help but spit out a mouthful of water. Are you two kidding me? Martial master? How could she escape from your master? Do you know how powerful your master is? He glared at the two of them. How could they make such a joke? Were they looking down on his IQ? The corners of Bei and Feng Yu's lips twitched. What they said was true. Although it did sound like a joke. Elder Yu, it's true. We haven't found him yet, Feng Yu said. At this moment, Yuelao suddenly shouted. Wait! You said that Yi Qianxian has not been found? Then what happened to your master's injuries? He pointed at Yi Qianxian, who was lying on the bed. Could it be that this was treated by a ghost? Before Bei Qing and Feng Yu could speak, a cold and deep voice suddenly rang out in the bedroom. It was treated by a ghost. Yi Qianxian's eyes were cold. No one knew when he had woken up. He closed his eyes slightly and gnashed his teeth in anger. Chapter 169. As soon as Yi Qianxian regained consciousness, he knew that the servant who brought the medicine in to serve him was that woman in disguise. She was really lustful and bold. She even dared to sneak into the city lord's residence, and, thinking of how Luo Qingtong grabbed his doppelganger after falling into the water, Yi Qianxian felt a wave of shame and anger in his heart. How many times had that woman teased and provoked him like this? Did she really think that he didn't dare to kill her? However, even though he was thinking this way, Yi Qianming's mind couldn't help but recall the moment when the young girl's hand held his doppelganger's soft and beautiful hand. If not, how could he suddenly lose control of his own aura and explode his meridians? That woman was really... Yi Qianxian gritted his teeth in hatred. Investigate it for me. Everything that happened in the city lord's residence that day, no matter how big or small, must be reported to me, especially when it came to that manservant. From top to bottom, don't let go of even a single strand of hair. He wanted to see what that woman wanted to do. Moreover, Yi Qianxian clearly sensed that the eyes of the servant that the woman disguised as were intact. It was just that the water vapor in the hall was too dense at that time, and he didn't pay much attention to it because his own aura was in a mess. He didn't know if it was his illusion. If it wasn't, then Yi Qianxian's eyes suddenly darkened. Yes, master. Hearing the sound of their master's teeth grinding, Beiqing and Feng Yu lowered their heads deeply. Oh my god! Master is really going to explode this time. That girl is also amazing. Even the evil doctor couldn't make Master so angry before. They didn't know what she did to Master in the bath hall. Both of them were very curious, but they didn't dare to ask. On the other hand, Elder Yu didn't have any scruples. Seeing Yi Qianxian like this, he laughed. Oh, what's wrong? It's rare to see you like this. Did the girl take advantage of you? He was just casually saying it, but Yi Qianxian didn't refute him. Looking at his face, it was obviously 10 times darker than before. Elder Yu was stunned, then he slapped his thigh and laughed loudly. No way! Did I really hit the nail on the head? Ha ha ha. He laughed so hard that he was swaying back and forth. Ha ha ha. The dignified Nether Venerable was molested. Ha ha ha. Come on. Tell me, where did she touch you? Elder. Yi Qianren's face was dark and his voice was cold. I have a feeling that everyone in the Medicine God Valley sect must have missed you dearly after all these years. Ah! Before he could finish his words, Elder Yu had already jumped up like a spring. Ah! It was easy for people to forget things when they got old. What did I just hear? Did I say something? Why don't I? Ah! This person had to admit that he was old. Oh! I suddenly remembered that the Hall of Medicine still has some improved formulas that I haven't had the time to concoct. Yi, I'm leaving now. After saying that, he disappeared with a whoosh. Beiqing and Feng Yu were flustered. Elder Yu, you can't trick us like this. You always run away after tricking us. What are we going to do? Feeling their master's gaze on them, they wanted to cry but had no tears. Master, we... Actually, they didn't hear anything. Before they could finish their words, Yi Qianxian kicked them out of the room with a cold face. Chapter 170. Oh my god! Espionage Workshop. Beiqing and Feng Yu's faces instantly turned green when they heard their master's words. They couldn't care about anything else. They got up and ran out. They would rather die than go to the Espionage Workshop. The Espionage Workshop, as the name implied, was a place where they used beauty to obtain information. It was a branch of the Blackfield's intelligence building. Beiqing and Feng Yu ran as fast as they could when they thought that they might be sent there to sell their beauty. In the Blackfield subcity, the demonic doctor's residence. After 24 hours, Luo Qingtong finally stopped. The blood-red glow in her eyes was extinguished. She was completely engulfed in darkness. She couldn't even stand steadily. Master. Su Yu, whose body was already extremely weak, saw Luo Qingtong's swaying body. She hurriedly gritted her teeth and reached out to support her, but was blocked by Luo Qingtong. I'm fine. I just used too much of my mental strength, Luo Qingtong said as she supported herself on the bed and sat down. I'll be fine in a while. How do you feel now? She looked blankly in Su Yu's direction. Luo Qingtong's mental strength was completely used up. Her eyes naturally returned to the state of being blind. However, Luo Qingtong didn't really care. She would be fine after her mental strength recovered. However, it was really troublesome to passively recover her mental strength like this. She still had to find a way to neutralize the poison in her eyes. Yes, I'm much better. After an entire day and night of treatment, not only was Luo Qingtong exhausted, Su Yu almost couldn't hold on a few times. However, she managed to hold on until the end. Su Yu forced herself to use the last of her consciousness to inspect her body. She felt the new meridians in her body. Looking at how wide and smooth they were, Su Yu's eyes quickly filled with tears. Master. She choked with sobs. Thank you for giving me a new life. This was a true rebirth. When Su Yu blocked the sword for Luo Qingtong, she was already prepared to die. But now, not only had she survived, but all the meridians in her body had been reconstructed, and she had attained the innate constitution. The so-called Xiantian constitution meant that all the meridians in the body were connected, and the circulation of energy was endless. Generally speaking, only Martial King realm experts would be able to sense the power of heaven and earth at the moment of their promotion to Martial King. They would be able to break through the congenital shackles of the main meridians in their bodies and connect the main meridians in their bodies together to form a congenital body. However, Luo Qingtong had directly created a Xiantian body for Suyu. Moreover, this innate body was not something an ordinary martial king's innate body could compare with. To be honest, Suyu's current physique was an innate Xiantian constitution. All the meridians in her body had been opened. As for ordinary martial king realm experts, they would only be able to open the main meridians in their bodies. The difference between the two was like heaven and earth. A martial artist's meridians were directly related to their strength. The more meridians that were opened in the body, the more effective it would be for a martial artist when they cultivated. At the same time, they would be able to display more strength. Suyu was only at the martial marquis realm, but she had already opened all the meridians in her body. This meant that in her future cultivation, she would no longer need to painstakingly accumulate strength to open her meridians. Instead, she would be able to break through the barrier and advance. How could her cultivation speed be limited to 1,000 miles a day? Furthermore, with all the meridians in her body open and flowing, the strength that Suyu could display would be far above other experts of the same level. It could be said that Luo Qingtong had already used her eye technique to build a smooth path to the heavens for her. Chapter 171. Mistress. Suyu's eyes were filled with tears. She had never thought that she would have such a day. With her current physique, she would be a genius that everyone would fight for, even in the 4 great sacred dynasties. A carp leaping over the dragon's gate in a day. And all of this was brought about by the girl in front of her. She had bought her and saved her. She even gave her such a great opportunity. Suyu felt that even if she were to be smashed to pieces, she would never be able to repay Mistress's kindness. Mistress. She struggled to get up, but fell back onto the couch. Luo Qingtong wanted to press her back down, but was stopped by her. After a few times, Suyu finally dragged her body and knelt in front of Luo Qingtong. Dripping with cold sweat. Mistress. Suyu has a request. You want to destroy the Chung clan in Sunrise Country. Luo Qingtong looked in her direction blankly. I can agree to this request of yours. The Chung clan had provoked her, so Luo Qingtong didn't mind making them pay the price. Suyu's ability wasn't bad, so she could let her do it. No. Unexpectedly, Suyu shook her head. I know that if I ask Mistress will definitely help me. But Suyu doesn't want to implicate Mistress because of her own matters. Moreover, the blood feud of my Su clan can't be resolved just by destroying them. I want them to pay a price that's even more disastrous than the destruction of my Su clan. I want to use my hands to bring them complete despair and pain. I want them to know that what they did to my Su clan back then was a huge mistake. Only in this way can my Su clan's spirit in heaven be comforted. Suyu said these words with great difficulty. She had just escaped death, and her entire body was extremely weak. However, that body was still standing perfectly straight. That beautiful and fierce face that did not lose its heroic spirit was filled with determination and determination. She couldn't implicate Mistress anymore. She had to avenge herself. This time, because of her, her master was almost in danger. She would never allow it to happen again. Master, please allow me to go to the southern wasteland, the land of chaos. Suyu was willing to become the sword in Master's hand and create a powerful force that absolutely belonged to Master, so that Master will have no more worries in the future. Master, please grant my wish. Suyu bent down heavily and kowtowed in front of Luo Qingtong. There were layers of bandages on her back, but at this moment, they were completely torn apart by her movements. Blood quickly gushed out. The extreme south wilderness. Luo Qingtong narrowed her eyes. Outside of the eastern region, where the 4 great holy dynasties were located, it was a desolate area that had yet to be fully opened. That place had the most ferocious savage beasts, the most treacherous hearts, and the most abundant resources. Countless countries and forces had sent people to work hard in it, and the rich resources they obtained were all sent back to their respective forces. That area was truly a land of chaos. Bandits and mercenaries ran rampant. In that place there were no rules or laws, only blood and death. But at the same time, once one made a name for himself there, the rewards would be very frightening. That was a place where both opportunity and death were equal. For Suyu to make such a choice, it was obvious that she had already disregarded life and death. All right. I promise you, Luo Qingtong said in a low voice. Since Suyu had such intentions, why wouldn't she grant her wish? Moreover, she did need a force of her own. Whether it was for herself, or for the Luo clan. She needed to build a force that no one would dare to humiliate. The extreme South Wilderness was indeed the best place to break through. Chapter 172. Thank you, Master. Suyu kowtowed again. Suyu swears by the heavens and earth that I will never betray Master in this life. I will serve Master for the rest of my life. If I have second thoughts, I will be punished by the heavens and earth. Rumble. When Suyu made the vow, the heavens and earth shook. 2 undetectable rays of light fell from the sky. Luo Qingtong had a realization in her heart. Suyu's words had been recorded by the heavens and earth. If she violated it in the future, she would be punished by the heavens and earth. This kind of punishment was much harsher than offering one's soul and serving Luo Qingtong as master. Because she offered her soul to serve Luo Qingtong as her master. If Suyu had second thoughts, as long as Luo Qingtong was willing to let her go, she could still live. However, the heavens and earth were the arbiters of the heavens and earth. As long as Suyu had any thoughts of disrespecting or even harming Luo Qingtong, the heavens and earth would sense it and punish her immediately. Moreover, after she was killed, she would never be reincarnated. Luo Qingtong's heart was shaken. She didn't expect Suyu to make such a heavy vow. She saved Suyu only because her authority was shaken. So she used the Chung family as a warning to others. Suyu had sold her life to her. Good. Suyu, since you vowed to follow me forever, I won't treat you unfairly. Luo Qingtong narrowed her eyes and raised her hand to summon Snowball. Take it with you and let it grow with you. The southern wilderness is dangerous, but it can protect you at critical moments. In addition, this is the weapon used by Elder Lu. It's a good spiritual weapon. Combined with the king-level technique, Raging Flame Cut, its power can't be underestimated. Later I'll copy the king-level cultivation method, Raging Flame Slash, and give it to you. Luo Qingtong's voice was light, but she didn't know how shocked Suyu was. King-level cultivation technique? Raging Flame Slash? Copy it out for her. Not only did Master learn the Raging Flame Slash, a king-level cultivation technique, on the spot, but he also completely understood it and could copy it into a secret manual for her. Is Mistress really not a martial emperor? This was not something a martial master could do. Suyu was shocked beyond words. She didn't even pay attention to what Luo Qingtong said about Snowball. She only thought that it was just an ordinary spiritual pet. Master. He watched as Luo Qingtong copied the king-level cultivation method right in front of him and concocted a bunch of medicinal liquid for him on the spot. Suyu realized that he was almost numb from the shock. Oh my god. How much ability does Master have that hasn't been revealed yet? Master's refining speed was simply faster than any other alchemist she had seen before. Suyu had never seen any alchemist refining medicine like Master. He just casually glanced at it, then raised his hand and rubbed it. A bunch of medicinal liquid came out. Moreover, the medicinal strength of each medicinal liquid was very rich. Even if Suyu didn't study the elixirs, she could see that the elixirs refined by her master were extraordinary. The medicinal strength was so rich that it was even richer than the best medicinal liquid she had encountered in the Su family. Master, what level of alchemist are you? She couldn't help but ask. Chapter 173. Suyu listened to those words, then looked at her own master's flamboyant movements, almost casually kneading and pinching to perfectly refine the medicinal liquid, and her entire person was petrified. Never learned alchemy. Master, are you kidding me? Even if she wasn't an alchemist, Suyu also knew that her master's incomparably skilled movements weren't something that an ordinary alchemist could perform. Instant medicine. Master, if you still say you don't know alchemy like this, you'll be beaten when you go out. Just as Suyu was shocked beyond words by her own master, Luo Qingtong had already finished refining a batch of medicinal liquid for her at an extremely fast speed. Looking at the pile of medicinal liquid in front of her, Luo Qingtong was very dissatisfied in her heart. These medicinal liquids were actually still not enough. Suyu wanted to establish a force, so naturally, the more medicinal liquids she had, the better. But there were too many of these things. How was Suyu going to take them all? Luo Qingtong thought about it and frowned. At this time, Suyu also discovered the problem. Master seemed to have prepared a lot of things for her. She looked at the large pile of medicinal bottles on the ground, and her heart was tangled. The quality of the medicinal liquids refined by Master was very good. Not to mention how much it would cost to invite an alchemist like Master. There were basically no alchemists in the extreme South Wilderness. These medicinal liquids would be very useful in the future. Relying on these medicinal liquids, she could completely make a name for herself in the extreme South Wilderness in a short time. Suyu had confidence in herself. But it wasn't easy to take so many medicinal liquids. AI, if only there was a space storage treasure. She sighed and said, "What treasure?" Luo Qingtong, who was thinking about how to put these things in Suyu, heard and asked. "A space storage treasure. It's a summer spatial spiritual tool," Suyu explained to Luo Qingtong. However, summer spatial spirit tools are extremely rare and precious. Only inscription masters can refine them. Every time it is refined, it will be snatched up by all the major forces. Ordinary people don't even have the chance to get it. Some people have never even heard of it, and don't know that such a magical treasure exists in this world. If I have a Sumeru spatial spirit tool, I can store all of these medicinal liquids in it. I can carry them with me, and I won't be afraid of anything else, Suyu said. Hearing this, Luo Qingtong looked pensive. Sumeru spatial spirit artifact. This thing is really convenient. She was just worrying about where to put all the good stuff she got in the future. Does the auction house sell these things? If there is, I'll buy it. For Luo Qingtong, problems that could be solved with money were not problems at all. No. Suyu shook her head. Master, you don't know. Sumeru spatial spirit tools were far too precious. They would almost never be sold in public auctions. Even those secret auctions where ordinary people couldn't enter were rarely sold. It's basically impossible to buy them. The secret auctions where you can buy Sumeru spatial spirit tools can only be found in the main cities of the great holy dynasties. Without a certain status and strength, you can't enter. So troublesome? Luo Qingtong frowned as she listened. Suddenly she thought of something. She raised her hand and released Little Pig from the 9-layer exquisite pagoda. Among the things Tian Mingzi left for me, is there a Sumeru spatial spirit tool? Of course not. Little Pig rolled his eyes as he was being carried by her. It's already good enough that he could escape from those people with the life and death duality sword and 9-layer exquisite pagoda. You still expect him to bring those trash with him? Is there a hole in his brain? Luo Qingtong. Those trash. She raised her eyebrows. Chapter 174. That's right. Little Pig was swaying in her hand, and its 4 little hooves were flapping. Isn't it just those trash? Have you forgotten what that old man Tianmingzi does? He can make as much trash as he wants. Why would he need to bring them? Luo Qingtong instantly remembered. In the inheritance that Tianmingzi gave her, he mentioned the great Tao of inscription. He was an inscription master, so he naturally didn't care about those spatial spiritual tools. After all, he could make them whenever he wanted. What do you need spatial spiritual tools for? Little Pig asked as it looked around and saw a pile of medicinal liquid on the ground. Don't tell me it's for storing these things? Is there a problem? Luo Qingtong raised her eyebrows and looked at Little Pig. She was thinking about the probability of learning inscription patterns and refining spatial spiritual tools. However, she didn't know anything about inscription patterns right now, so it would be a little difficult to apply what she learned now. If she spent too much time on it, the losses would outweigh the gains. After all, she had been away from the Luo family for a long time, so she had to go back and take a look. Luo Qingtong frowned as she thought about it. At this moment, Little Pig's voice sounded. Why would I need a spatial spiritual tool to store these things? It's fine as long as it can store things, Little Pig said as it wriggled in Luo Qingtong's hand. Let go of me first. I remember that I have some things that old man Tian Mingzi ruined. I thought they were pretty, so I kept them. Although they don't have spatial spiritual tools, they can still store things. I'll go get them for you. Luo Qingtong let go of Little Pig after hearing that. The little pig disappeared in a flash. After a while, it came out with a ring on each of its hooves. Here. This is Grandpa Pig's collection. Look at these 2 rings, aren't they beautiful? Little Pig proudly put his little hooves in front of Luo Qingtong. At the side, Suyu was already stunned by the conversation between Luo Qingtong and Little Pig. She looked up from Little Pig's trotters and instantly sucked in a breath of cold air. Oh my God! Surprisingly, Little Pig's hooves were adorned with 2 extremely luxurious rings. The rings were decorated with 2 mythical beasts of unknown origin. The majestic aura around the rings was so vivid that people couldn't help but want to worship them. These 2 ruined items. What would they look like if they were refined? Suyu's eyes widened, and she didn't know what to say. She had seen countless treasures, but none of them could be compared to the 2 rings Little Pig took out. The mythical beasts on the rings were so lifelike that they could be awakened at any moment. She is indeed very beautiful. Luo Qingtong also praised her. Of course. Little Pig's tail was almost raised to the sky. That's my taste. If they weren't beautiful, why would I keep them? Here. Take them. Although these 2 rings are ruined, at least the space inside is barely formed. Don't even think about adjusting the flow of time, moving mountains, filling seas, gathering spirit springs, and so on. It's not a problem to store things that are hundreds or thousands of square meters. Bam! After Little Pig finished speaking, Suyu fell to the ground with a bang. Oh my God! Hundreds or thousands of square meters. This is still considered a waste. Chapter 175. Suyu wasn't an ignorant person. On the contrary, during the Su family's glorious days, she went to the secret auction with the Su family's general. At that time, a storage ring was auctioned at a sky-high price in the secret auction. All parties were fighting over it. Suyu clearly remembered that it was a storage ring refined by an extremely famous inscription master in the Holy Dynasty. 100 square meters of storage ring was enough to shock all parties. At that time, the 4 great holy dynasties and the imperial family were all present. The whole auction scene was unprecedentedly grand. And now, Suyu looked at the trash that Luo Qingtong handed to her. Her lips twitched. She imprinted her spiritual power on it, and was shocked to find that it was an incomparably spacious space. However, it was surrounded by a dusky mist, as if there was something that hadn't been expanded yet. Suyu didn't doubt that Little Pig's words were true. This was really a trash. And the real Sumeru spatial spiritual tools function wasn't just for storage. Adjusting the flow of time, moving mountains and filling seas, gathering spirit springs. Oh my God! Is this a real Sumeru spatial spiritual tool? The Sumeru spatial spiritual tools that she had heard of before were inferior to trash. Suyu was shocked, and so was Luo Qingtong. She didn't expect the inscription technique to be so powerful. Luo Qingtong was very interested in the effects of the Sumeru spatial spiritual tool that Little Pig mentioned. Adjusting the flow of time, moving mountains and filling seas, gathering spirit springs. It seemed like she had to study the inscription technique when she had the time. This was a field that she had never come into contact with before. Luo Qingtong was now a little curious about the inscription technique. After letting Suyu rest, Luo Qingtong returned to her room and used her fastest speed to refine the medicinal liquid that she was going to prepare for Suyu. Looking at the half-filled storage ring in Suyu's hand, Luo Qingtong nodded with satisfaction. This should be enough. The main thing was that Luo Qingtong didn't want to attract too much attention. Otherwise, it wouldn't be a problem for her to fill Suyu's storage ring to the brim. Luo Qingtong spent 3 days refining the medicine. During these 3 days, the answers that Yi Qianxian wanted were presented to him in the Blackfield Subsidies report. Master, we've investigated it. There was nothing unusual about the servant called Little Six when he went out of the door. and into the medicine storage room. The only strange thing is that when she was in the medicine warehouse, she asked for an extra ingredient, the Heaven's Heart jasper fruit. Master's heart's heart jade heart's master. Master's heart's gift. Beiqing and Feng Yu kneeled in front of Yi Qianren and reported. The two of them used all their strength to properly investigate these matters within 3 days. Nothing unusual? Yi Qianxian narrowed his eyes as he looked at the report in his hand. There was no joy or anger on his face. Only that pair of ice-cold eyes flickered with a faint light. That woman's eyes were indeed fine at that time. In that case, her eyes could temporarily recover? Yi Qianxian's index finger tapped on the table, as his eyes drooped slightly. The damage of the medicine and poison wasn't so easy to cure. Since she came to the city lord's mansion to steal the Jade Heaven's Heart fruit, it meant that she needed that medicine very much. It was very likely that it was one of the antidotes for her medicine and poison. That woman was really not simple. Chapter 176. Yi Qianxian narrowed his eyes. Take this to Elder Yu and ask him to figure out the antidote for other poisons. Also, show me the list of medicinal ingredients that the evil doctor handed to the bloody arena. He wanted to see if that woman was the evil doctor or not. Yes, Beiqing and Feng Yu were about to leave after receiving the order. At this moment, Yi Qianxian stopped them. Wait. He raised his hand and drew a portrait. It was Luo Qingtong's original appearance when she took off her mask in the Blackfield City Lord's mansion. That gorgeous and devilish face was 30% evil and 70% biting cold. The smile on his lips was wanton and carefree. He was really a beautiful young man. It was devilishly charming to the extreme. Beiqing and Feng Yu took the portrait with cold sweat on their faces. What is Master doing? Didn't he say he was looking for that woman? Why did he draw a portrait of an enchanting young man for us? First, it was the evil doctor. Now it's an enchanting young man. Master, what's wrong with you? You can't be gay. However, Yi Qianxian couldn't hear their thoughts at all. Spread this picture to all the cities in the superior countries. No, all the cities in the intermediate countries and above. Let them take a closer look. Is there such a person? If there is, immediately report to me. Yi Qianxian was betting. He was betting that this face was the other party's true appearance. At that time, he would know who the evil doctor was. He was going to attack from both sides. He didn't believe that he couldn't find out the other party's true identity. Beiqing and Feng Yu wiped their cold sweat and got up to leave. Yi Qianxian sat upright on the huge black throne. His face was slightly gloomy, and his eyes were slightly narrowed. Let's see where you can escape to this time. In the Blackfield City Lord's mansion, Luo Qingtong still didn't know that her identity was about to be exposed. At this moment, she was in the hall, looking at a group of powerful battle slaves that she had gathered. These people were all purchased by her at the slave market. In addition to increasing the number of guards in her residence, it was also to increase the strength of the Luo clan. As the marquis of an inferior country, although the Luo family's status was extraordinary, it was actually very awkward. Its current status was completely based on the engagement with the Tianyu Empire. And now Luo Qingtong wants to break off the engagement. Without the protection of the Tianyu Empire, the forces that had been suppressed by the Luo family would be ready to take action. In this world, it was always easy to add flowers to brocade, but difficult to provide timely help. Luo Qingtong wouldn't put her hope on the possibility that others wouldn't cause trouble for the Luo family. What she wanted was to control everything in her hands. Rather than hoping that others wouldn't come looking for trouble, it was better to be safe than sorry. She preferred to beat up all the people who came looking for trouble, so that they wouldn't dare to cause trouble again. I bought all of you from the slave market. Now I'll give you 2 choices. 1. Leave Blackfield City with me. 2. Stay in the Blackfield City Lord's mansion and guard it. Luo Qingtong sat on the big chair made of rosewood. Her eyes, which had recovered, swept over the people present. Master, are you going to abandon us? The people who were questioned were very frightened, especially those in the martial marquis realm. After seeing Luo Qingtong's power before, they had already regarded her as their only master. Even if they didn't want to surrender, They were completely eliminated by Luo Qingtong's series of means. But now their master actually asked them to make a choice. Chapter 177. That's not it. Luo Qingtong's eyes drooped down slightly. I'm just giving you a chance. But whether you can grasp it or not, it's up to you. Luo Qingtong's voice was faint. Of these two paths, one represents the supreme path. As for whether you are willing to take it or not, it's up to you to choose. If they were willing to leave the Blackfield city with her, then when they returned to the eastern border country, even if it was for the Luo family, she would not treat those slaves unfairly. Those people would be another secret force she would set up for the Luo family in the future. She would naturally pave the way for them in the future. As for those who stayed behind, since they chose the comfortable Blackfield city, it showed that they had no spirit to fight. Then they could only be like this in the future. But Luo Qingtong would not tell them this. Everything was up to these battle slaves to decide for themselves. I can only tell you that if you leave with me, it will be very dangerous. Maybe you won't be able to keep your life. But if you stay in the Blackfield city, it will be relatively safe. You can choose for yourself. Luo Qingtong wore the Luo Sha mask and looked at them. Now, I will count to 3. Those who are willing to go with me, line up on the left. Those who want to stay, line up on the right. As Luo Qingtong spoke, she started counting calmly. 1. Her voice sounded, and the slaves' hearts were in a panic. They didn't know what this choice meant. Seeing that Luo Qingtong had counted to 2, many people suddenly gritted their teeth and chose according to their own ideas. 3. Luo Qingtong's voice stopped. She looked at the battle slaves who were already standing in front of her and nodded. Good. Those who choose to leave with me, now start to leave the city in batches. Luo Qingtong would not give the people in the Blackfield a chance to track her whereabouts. After these battle slaves had all made their choice, she immediately had them leave the city with their identities concealed. Anyway, there were so many slaves coming in and out of her mansion every day. She didn't believe that the Blackfield people would be so bored as to mark everyone. Everyone's eyes were fixed on him. They probably didn't even take these battle slaves seriously. You guys lead the team. Luo Qingtong looked at the martial lord experts and said, none of these people were willing to stay in the mansion in the Blackfield subcity. They were all willing to leave with her. Very good. In the future, they would know that they had made the right choice. Master. At this moment, Chu Lingfeng stepped forward. He was originally standing behind Luo Qingtong and didn't need to make a choice. But now, he stepped forward and knelt in front of Luo Qingtong. Master, I want to stay in Blackfield City. As soon as Chu Lingfeng's words came out, Luo Qingtong immediately looked at him. Those martial Marquis realm battle slaves were also very surprised in their hearts. Could it be that this Chu Lingfeng was really a big idiot whose brain wasn't clear? Didn't he know Master's ability? Following Master's side, even if they would face danger, it also represented a huge opportunity. If Master casually gave them something, it would be enough for them to benefit endlessly. He actually didn't want to, but wanted to stay in Blackfield City? Reason. Luo Qingtong looked at Chu Lingfeng. She didn't believe that Chu Lingfeng was the kind of person who was greedy for life, and afraid of death, and coveted for ease. This big idiot had been very loyal and pure ever since he came back with her. Chapter 178. Master, I want to become stronger. Chu Lingfeng's silly face was full of disappointment. I'm too weak. I can't protect Master if I stay by Master's side. It's good to have a few of them by your side. As he spoke, he raised his hand and pointed to the martial lord experts at the front of the left. With them around, and Master being so powerful, nothing will happen to him. But if I stay by Master's side, I will only implicate Master. Chu Lingfeng tried his best to organize his words. I've thought for a long time. I don't have outstanding talent, and my brain is not good. I'm stupid and stupid. How can I be useful to Master? As he spoke, he grinned at Luo Qingtong. I didn't sleep last night. I finally thought of it. Master, I'm not afraid of pain. I can take a beating. I'm not afraid of injury. Master, I'll be your shield from now on. With me here, no one can hurt you. So, I want to stay and go to the bloody arena. Only there can I grow. As Chu Lingfeng spoke, he kneeled a few steps in front of Luo Qingtong and whispered mysteriously, Master, you don't know I have a secret. My body is strange. The more I take a beating, the stronger I become. A lot of people can't kill me. In the end, their strength becomes mine. Master, don't tell others. My mother said I can't let others know. As Chu Lingfeng spoke, he scratched his head. He didn't know if Master understood. But he knew since he was young that unless he was killed in one blow, he would slowly absorb the strength of those people who beat him. It could either repair his body or increase his strength. Mother said he can't tell others his secret. But Chu Lingfeng felt that Master was not others. Luo Qingtong's eyes softened. She didn't expect Chu Lingfeng to stay for this reason. This is good. With his special constitution, it was true that the bloody arena was the best place for him to train and improve himself, especially in a place where there were constant battles. This blockhead was really born to fight. Previously, when Luo Qingtong saw his wound, she found it very strange. She felt that his recovery ability was too strong. Who would have thought that there would be such a secret? Okay, then you can stay here. I'll talk to the bloody arena, Luo Qingtong said. Yes, thank you, Master. Chu Lingfeng's mind was pure. He didn't think that his previous action of staying might make Luo Qingtong unhappy. Hearing that she had agreed, he instantly laughed mischievously, with a face full of disdain. The nearby martial lord realm battle slaves all sighed in their hearts when they saw this. Sigh. Truly, fortune favors fools. If it was someone else, they might have angered Master by making such a move. This blockhead's sincerity actually made Master value him even more. But this kind of sincerity was something they couldn't learn. Who would have thought that Chu Lingfeng wanted to stay to enter the bloody arena? That kind of place was really not a place that martial cultivators, who had the slightest ability, would want to enter. After all, it was a matter of life and death. Only this blockhead, with his pure mind and wholeheartedly for Master, would make such a decision. The group was divided into two groups. Those who stayed behind were led by Chu Lingfeng. Chapter 179. Rumble. In the mountains outside the Blackfield city, a rumbling sound rose. A huge and beautiful flying boat rose into the air and stopped in front of them. The group of battle slaves who were preparing to leave with Luo Qingtong were stunned. Oh my God! The group of battle slaves were not people who did not know what was good for them. In this world, spiritual weapons were divided into 4 categories: mortal, human, earth, and heaven. Each category was divided into 9 grades. Luo Qingtong's flying boat was clearly an earth-grade spiritual weapon, but they did not know what grade it was. This was an earth-grade spiritual weapon that only the experts of the 4 great holy dynasties were qualified to possess. They did not expect Luo Qingtong to have such a flying boat. Their master's identity must be extraordinary. However, these battle slaves did not know that they had guessed wrong. When they arrived at Eastern Fence Country and found out Luo Qingtong's true identity, they realized how wrong they were. Their powerful and domineering master was actually the eldest daughter of a low-level country's marquis. This was impossible no matter how they looked at it. On the 3rd day after Luo Qingtong and the rest left, Chu Lingfeng came to the bloody arena with the letter left by Luo Qingtong. At this point, the people in the Blackfield city knew that the evil doctor had left, and there was no trace of her at all. Oh my God! My Lord Evil Doctor, why did you leave just like that? After receiving the news, the Blackfield city lord wanted to cry but had no tears. God knew that he had just received news from the main city to keep an eye on the evil doctor and not make any mistakes. Now, it was not just a mistake, but a complete loss of her. The Blackfield city lord's heart was stifled. Fortunately, Chu Lingfeng, that big blockhead, did not leave, which made him feel more at ease. The other party was personally saved by the evil doctor and arranged for him to enter the bloody arena to gain experience. It was impossible for her to ignore him. Thinking of this, the Blackfield city lord wiped the cold sweat on his forehead and hurriedly reported this news to the main city. At the same time, in the Blackfield's main city, Mingzun Palace. Yi Qianxian also received the list of medicinal herbs that Luo Qingtong had given to the bloody arena. Looking at the words Heaven's Jade Heart Fruit, the veins on Yi Qianxian's forehead throbbed. Evil Doctor Ghost Eye. He gritted his teeth as he enunciated each and every word clearly. That woman wanted the exact same herbs. And so did Evil Doctor Ghost Eye. How could there be such a coincidence? The heavens, most likely that Evil Doctor was that woman. However, during the previous few probings, the other party had always acted like a man. So Yi Qianren could not be completely sure. Damn it! That day in the city lord's manor, she shouldn't have been confused by his perfect eyes. He should have stripped off his clothes. That way, she would know whether he was a man or a woman. Yi Qianren's eyes were cold. He suddenly stood up. Prepare the spirit boat. I'm going to the eastern border nation's Black Region branch city. This time, he would definitely not let the other party escape. He would not allow her to play any tricks. However, just as he finished speaking, Bei Qing hurried in with an urgent report from the Blackfield City Lord. Master, the evil doctor has already left the Blackfield City Lord. Her whereabouts are unknown. He lowered his head and knelt on the ground to report carefully. Oh my God, the evil doctor had actually disappeared. Master was going to explode from anger. Sure enough, when he heard Bei Qing's report, Yi Qianxian directly crushed the armrest of his throne. Chapter 180. Yes, Bei Qing hurriedly replied. He was afraid that he would be crushed like the armrest of his master's throne if he agreed too late. He wiped the cold sweat off his forehead and left, muttering to himself along the way. Master is too concerned about this evil doctor, isn't he? Even if he has something to do with that girl, shouldn't Master be searching for that girl's whereabouts more closely? Why is he so fixated on the evil doctor the moment he woke up? Master, aren't you putting the cart before the horse? That girl is the main culprit. The evil doctor isn't her. Bei Qing screamed in his heart, wanting his master to realize his mistake as soon as possible. However, when he saw his master's dark face and the broken armrest, he silently swallowed his words. Feng Yu, do you think our master is he? After leaving the main hall, Bei Qing looked at Feng Yu, who was standing beside him, with a conflicted expression. He wanted to say something, but stopped himself. What is it? It's nothing. Feng Yu's lips twitched as he watched a certain figure walk out of the main hall. He kept winking at Bei Qing. Shut up, idiot. Master is coming out. However, Bei Qing, who was dense, didn't understand his meaning at all. Did our master really fall in love with the evil doctor? Why does he care so much about the evil doctor? He's obviously a shameless old man. Feng Yu, do you think our master is that? Feng Yu, why are your eyes cramping so much? Are your lips twitching too? Did he have a stroke? You're the one who had a stroke. Your whole family had a stroke. Feng Yu looked at her master's face, which was so dark that ink could drip out of it. She couldn't help but cover her eyes. Bei Qing, this idiot. Master. Seeing Feng Yu's actions, Bei Qing's single-celled subordinate finally realized what was going on. He turned around and saw his master's dark expression. His face instantly turned green. Oh my God. Master. When did Master come? He Feng Yu, that disloyal person, did not say anything to remind him. What's the use of just slapping his face? Master, Before Bei Qing could say anything, Yi Qianxian flicked his sleeves and walked past him. Strip him naked and throw him into the brothel. Without my order, no one is allowed to let him out. The cold voice sounded as if it came from the snowfield of the northern kingdom. Bei Qing jumped up from the ground in fright. Master, don't. He didn't want to sell his body. Please change the punishment. Master. However, before he could catch up to Yi Qianxian, he was surrounded by Wind Feather and his men. Bei Qing, you know Master's temperament. She always means what she says. So, Wind Feather looked at him with an elegant smile. Do you want to do it yourself? Or do you want us to do it? As he spoke, he twisted his fingers with a ka sound. This idiot, I've already reminded him, but he still wants to find trouble with Master. She had almost been implicated by him. Feng Yu felt that he must carry out master's orders and teach Beiqing a lesson. Wait, don't come over. Seeing Wind Feather and his men approaching, Beiqing subconsciously turned around and tried to escape. However, he was swarmed by them and pressed to the ground. In an instant, he screamed in pain. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Sword of Destiny YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.